Subrina Fulton. She's written quite an emotional and really beautifully penned open letter to the Brown family saying, quote, "I wish that all of the pain that I've endured could possibly ease some of yours, but it won't. What I can do for you is what you have been doing for me, pray for you. Then share my continuing journey as you begin yours." Subrina Fulton joins me right now. She co-founded the Trayvon Martin Foundation after her son's death. Thank you so much for joining me this morning and sharing a little bit more about this letter. I think the parallels are many between the case we're seeing now and the story of your son's death. Teenagers, unarmed, young black men, both becoming the symbols of a larger national movement. It seems it would be a natural thing for you to pick up a pen and write to them, but you decided to do it as an open letter. Why do that?
One of the things is because a lot of the words that I had to say to the family, I don't think I would have been able to say at this time personally to them. And so I felt that it was best that I let people know that not only my family, but the Trayvon Martin Foundation supports their family. And I thought it would just be best in order for me to write an open letter.
If they reached out to you, would you meet with them?
Absolutely, absolutely. We have been in contact with the parents of, Tracy and I have been in contact with the parents of.
I'm so glad that that's happened, because I think there is power in your voice, joining their process of grieving and all that they're going through. And I actually want to talk about that, because the grieving process for the family is just beginning. They haven't buried their son yet. They haven't laid him to rest. The investigation continues. The legal process is also just beginning. In your case, George Zimmerman walked free. In Michael Brown's case, this officer involved is on paid administrative leave. That has to complicate the grieving process, no?
Absolutely, but I think before we even think about the investigation, I think the first things first, and I think that they need to have a proper and decent homegoing service for their son. I think we're getting off track with a lot of things, but he needs to be buried and he needs to be laid to rest, and that's going to be a very difficult moment in their life, and I don't want them to take that lightly. It's going to be very hurtful. It's going to be very sorrowful. It's going to be very disappointing to know that they're burying their 18-year-old son and he had a full life ahead of him.
Where did you find your support during that particular difficulty, Subrina?
As I said in my letter, I found my support through my faith, my family, and my friends, and I keep holding on to them because I know they've been there, they're still there, and that's all I have. All I have is my faith.
You also say in the letter, you write this really interesting phrase. I'd like for you to explain more about what you mean. You say, quote, "If they refuse to hear us, we will make them feel us."
One of the things that I also said right below that is that people are going to take that out of content, and I know that they will, because they think that it's something negative when it's not. The reason why I think that they don't quite understand what's going on is because it's not happening to them. But I think once we start voting more and we start electing some of the officials that's in the capacity to try to help us out with our issues, we'll be in a lot better position. I think once we start educating ourselves and once we start getting good jobs and we stop shopping at the places that don't support us, they will really feel us. And that's what I meant by that.
You know, it's interesting. You had to live out this very real horror in your life on a national and international scale. We're seeing this again for the family of Michael Brown, and part of that, there is this charge of character assassination. Michael Brown's family saying police were engaging in that. How do you deal with that as a mother, and especially in light of the fact that you're defending your son who no longer has a voice?
Well, I think it's necessary because because my son doesn't have a voice, I have to be the voice for him. And I just refuse to listen to all the negative things that people have said about him and that they will say. They even take shots at me and say that I'm not a good parent, but I did the best I could, and I still think he would have been followed, he would have been chased, he would have been pursued, and he would have been murdered, because it wasn't about Trayvon, it was about the person who pulled the trigger. Trayvon was 17 years old. Trayvon had a 17-year-old mind. And so that's what I tell people all the time. I'm not going to justify his actions for being on the phone, for walking home, for even having on a hoodie. I'm not going to justify that within a 17-year-old child.
Powerful words, Sabrina. We've all been watching and I think very disheartened by the scenes that we're seeing playing out on the streets overnight in Ferguson. It's hard to see the community struggling with anger and grief and then seemingly under siege. What do you think it's going to take to restore calm to that community?
I think by seeing all the militant, all the trucks and the guns and all of that, I don't think that's doing any good for that community, because it frightens people, and they have a right to protest if they're doing it in a peaceful manner. I think that our leaders need to get together, our community leaders need to get together, and they need to set up something so that it's more organized, and they need to meet with law enforcement so law enforcement knows what's going on, and they have a specific location. They shouldn't have them just walking up and down the street. They want to have them in an environment where they feel comfortable and they don't feel threatened by having guns and tear gas and things like that being thrown at them. I think that it needs to be organized, whether it's the National Action Network, the NAACP, or the Urban League, or just community leaders or pastors in that area, but they definitely need to organize and let the people know their plan of action.
Or maybe all of those groups in coalition working together in a coordinated fashion would be even more powerful. Subrina Fulton, the Trayvon Martin Foundation, continues to do great work. Thank you so much for adding your voice to this conversation. We didn't want to sort of add fuel to the flames, but we knew you could bring a sadly, very unique perspective to the situation and to what Michael Brown's family is going through. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
We'll take a short break here on New Day.